All right, welcome to the Node.js Roadmap. If you've ever thought, man, I wish I could use my JavaScript skills for more than just websites, well, this is for you. We're talking about servers, APIs, the whole backend world.
So let's just start with that big question right there. For so long, your JavaScript has been stuck inside the browser, right? It's amazing for making web pages dynamic and interactive, but let's be honest, it's been living in a cage. Well, think of Node.js as the key that's about to bust it out.
Now, before we get too far, just a heads up. This whole roadmap, it assumes you've got a solid handle on JavaScript already. If you don't, no worries. Just hit up the JavaScript roadmap first. We're not learning a brand new language here. We're just unlocking a totally new playground for the one you already know.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We're going to start by breaking out of that browser sandbox. Then we'll check out the essential building blocks of any Node app. After that, we dive deep into its asynchronous heart. That's the secret sauce. Then we'll move on to building real applications, getting them ready for production, and finally, we'll pop the hood and see what makes it all tick.
All right, first up, beyond the browser. This is all about a huge mental shift, We're not just playing in a sandbox anymore, we're moving to the big leagues, the server.
So what is Node.js, really? The key phrase here is runtime environment. You see, the browser is one runtime, and Node.js, well, it's another. What's so clever is that its creators took the ridiculously fast V8 JavaScript engine, the same one that powers Google Chrome, and built a whole new layer around it. This gives it superpowers that JavaScript in the browser could only ever dream of.
And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. In the browser, your JavaScript is locked in a sandbox for your own safety, right? It can't just go snooping around your computer's files. But Node.js? It kicks down the sandbox walls. It gives your code the keys to the kingdom. It can read and write files, handle network requests, and talk directly to the operating system. It's a whole new level of power.
Okay, next stop on the map, the building blocks. This is all about how we organize our code and, more importantly, how we tap into this massive global ecosystem of shared code.
So when you're organizing your code in Node, you'll run into two main systems. There's the classic CommonJS, which uses require function. It's straightforward, it loads things one by one, but it's synchronous. Then there's the modern standard, ES modules, which uses import. This one is asynchronous. Now that might seem like a small detail, but trust me, it's a total game changer. It allows for all sorts of clever optimizations that can make your app way smaller and faster.
Okay, organizing our own code is great, but the real magic of Node, it's the community. And that brings us to NPM. You gotta get this. NPM is really two things at the same time. It's the command line tool you'll be typing into your terminal, but it's also this gigantic online library, a registry with millions of open source packages ready for you to use.
And the workflow is it's so simple and elegant. You run npm install and the name of a package. That downloads the code. Then it automatically updates your package.json file. Think of this as your project's recipe book. And finally, it tucks all that downloaded code neatly into a folder called node_modules. Done.
All right, now we're getting to the really good stuff. The secret weapon. The thing that makes Node.js so incredibly fast and scalable. We're talking about its asynchronous heart. And this is the big question, isn't it? You hear that Node is single-threaded, that it only does one thing at a time. So how in the world does it handle thousands of connections without just grinding to a halt while it waits for a database or some slow API call? The answer is something called the event loop. It's this silent engine that's always running in the background. You don't really see it, but it's doing all the heavy lifting. Think of it like a super efficient personal assistant. When your code hits a slow task, like reading a file, Node basically tells the operating system, hey, you take care of this, let me know when you're done, and it immediately moves on to the next thing. The main thread never gets blocked.
And this analogy just nails it. Synchronous code is like being in line at the grocery store with one cashier. You're stuck waiting for the person in front of you. But asynchronous Node.js, it's like a fantastic waiter at a restaurant. They take your order, then they go take orders from 10 other tables. They don't just stand by your table staring at you while the kitchen cooks. They only come back when your food is actually ready. So much more efficient.
The way we've written this kind of code has changed a lot over the years. We started with callbacks, which, well, they often led to this nightmare called the Pyramid of Doom. Then promises came along and made things much cleaner with .then chaining. But today, the absolute gold standard is async and await. It lets us write code that looks clean and simple, like it's running line by line, but underneath it all, it's still 100% non-blocking. It's the best of both worlds. Okay, so we get the engine now, we understand the theory, let's talk about putting it into practice. How do we go from just code to building actual applications, like APIs and services that connect to real data?
The truth is, you almost never start from a completely blank page. You use a framework. And you've got choices. There's Express.js, which is like a big box of Legos. Super flexible, but you have to decide how to put the pieces together. Then you have something like Nest.js, which is the opposite. It's very opinionated. It gives you a strong architecture right from the start. For pure speed, there's Fastify. And for those modern, lightweight cloud and edge environments, you've got Hono. There's a tool for every job.
And what about talking to databases? Well, for that, we often use something called an ORM. The best way to think about an ORM is as a translator. It sits between your code and the database, bridging the gap. It translates the JavaScript objects you love to work with into the tables and rows that a SQL database understands. It saves you from writing so much boring, repetitive SQL code. So, building a little app on your machine is one thing, but making it a professional, reliable application that can run in production, that's a whole different ballgame. Let's talk about the 3 pillars that get you there.
Pillar number 1, testing. And I love this phrasing, verification, not just trust. We're not writing tests because we're nervous or paranoid. We write tests to get cold, hard, repeatable proof that our code does what we think it does. It's the difference between hoping it works and knowing it works.
Next up, Pillar 2, observability. And the key word here is structured logging. This isn't about just throwing console.log statements everywhere. No, this is about treating your logs as data, maybe formatting them as JSON. See, a bad log just says, uh-oh, some broke. A good log tells you exactly what broke, where it broke, what the error code was. It gives you actionable data you can actually use to fix the problem. And pillar number 3, performance. Remember how we said Node has one main thread? Well, what happens when you have a really heavy, CPU-intensive task, like crunching a bunch of numbers or processing an image? That's where worker threads come in. It's basically like hiring a little team of helpers. You can offload that heavy lifting to them, which keeps your main thread completely free to handle incoming requests and keep your whole app feeling snappy and responsive. All right, for our last major stop, let's really get our hands dirty. We're going to pop the hood and look at some of the powerful, low-level features that are baked right into Node itself. And that brings us to streams. This is such a powerful concept. Imagine you have a giant video file, like gigabytes in size. If you tried to load that whole thing into memory at once, your app would probably just crash. Streams are the solution. They let you work with the data in small, manageable chunks, one piece at a time. It's like a conveyor belt for data, which keeps your memory usage low and your app stable, no matter how big the file is. And there you have it. That's the big picture view of the Node.js landscape. But of course, the journey doesn't stop here. From this point, you could dive deep into a framework like Express.js. You could continue with our full backend roadmap, maybe branch out into DevOps and the cloud, or just keep exploring the full Node.js playlist. You've got options.
So, you've seen the map. You know all the checkpoints along the way. There's really only one question left to ask.
Let's get started. NPM, go!